And so I'll do my best moving this around. Okay, thank you. Here we go.
All right, well, first of all, thank you all for coming. We are Innovative Belt Solutions. I'm Mark Schneider. This is Stefan, Will, and Mia. All right. Now, in the year 2010, in the United States alone, there were over 5.4 million reported car accidents. Now, of these 5.4 million car accidents, there was a total of 2.2 million injuries. Now, usually in the U.S., you get a death rate of about 30 to 40,000 per year. So, the statistics don't lie, driving's dangerous. And since the invention of the automobile, safety has been a high priority from car manufacturers. So over the last 50 years, we've seen a lot of innovations in terms of safety. We have seen airbags, automatic sensors in cars, and better brakes. But one of the things that hasn't seen any innovation is the seatbelt. The seatbelt was invented in 1959 by Neil Force. And the problem they were having in 1959 was this, the three-point seatbelt. The problem they were having in 1959 was drivers, when they experienced a car crash, were slamming against the dashboard and the windshield. The seatbelt was designed to stop this, and it did a great job of stopping passengers and drivers from crashing through the windshield. Now, the problem is it created a new type of injury, and that is an injury that is actually caused by the seatbelt itself. Seatbelt, there have been a lot of studies over the past 20 years about the dangers of the seatbelt. Essentially, it's giving a number of spinal, abdominal, and neck injuries. So the problem arises that we need to find a safer seatbelt. So the goal of our company is to design a seatbelt that better protects the user and car accidents. It behaves just as functionally as a regular seatbelt, but reduces the injury caused by the actual seatbelt against the passenger when they're slammed into it during an accident. All right, so here is our prototype design. As you can see, it is very ergonomic and extremely similar to the traditional seatbelt design. We purposely did this so that passengers and end users would feel a lot more safe using a different product because of the fact that it is so similar to what they're used to. Other products have been out there that have they've tried to implement new ideas, and they haven't worked out so well because they were not very ergonomic, and the end users weren't very used to them. Now, as you can see, the first thing we have here is the elastomer. That's essentially like if you think of any sort of stretchy material, like a rubber or something like that. That will actually be right along this portion that'll go across the person's chest. Now what's going to happen in an accident is this elastomer is going to stretch and it's going to deform, absorbing a large part of the impact of the accident. And then behind this is going to be some slack rip stitching. It's essentially a continuous strand of seatbelt material, but it'll be folded over and stitched together. And the advantage of using these combined is that the first one, the elastomer, will actually slow the passenger down and absorb a lot of the impact of the accident so that there's not as much of a peak force on the passenger. And then once the rip stitching becomes taut, then that will break the stitches in the rip stitching, and it'll become taut. And then that second function will actually prevent the passenger from suddenly being jerked by the seatbelt. And then our third component right here is going to be the angle of attack of the seatbelt, which we found to be about 61¼ degrees. That is the angle at which the seatbelt comes over the person's shoulder. The advantage of that is so that the seatbelt can remain in contact with the passenger sooner, therefore they have more room to shift forward. Now our design would be analogous to if you got into an accident with the traditional seatbelt, it's like running into a brick wall, as compared to with the use of our seatbelt, it would be running into a brick wall, but it would have pillows in front of it. So that's just to give you an idea. Now, our business strategy. Did I?
Unless I screw that up. I screwed that up.
Okay.
Go one forward. Go one forward, and go back to later.
That needs to be fixed.
Yeah. We fixed something before, and I must have screwed up just before this. I apologize.
So we know the need. The seatbelt that all of us use every whenever we get into any kind of vehicle, is not as safe as it could be. Anytime you get into an accident, even a minor one that's less than at 25 miles per hour, which means you don't deploy the airbag, can result in whiplash, it can result in spinal cord injuries, and if you have a major accident, it can result in internal injuries, so broken ribs, damaged organs. The market that we're entering as Innovative Belt Solutions is technically called the motor vehicle seating and interior trim manufacturing market. So it's got about 483 companies, which would be possibly be our competitors, so mainly the Seatbelt ones. And the market leader right now is the International Automotive Components Group, which is an LLC, and its sales in North America right now is about 1.4 billion. So that's the market that we're entering, but the customers that we're marketing to are the car manufacturers themselves. So we're operating on a business-to-business level, and what we're going to try to do is license our idea to the car manufacturers. We're going to focus mainly on the luxury car manufacturers, so Lexus and Audi and maybe Subaru, so the ones that really focus on safety because they feel it adds value to their products.
Okay, so back to the business strategy. So our business strategy is to license, as Mia said, to the automobile manufacturers. The advantage of doing this is that we can, instead of focusing on producing the product and having to get a bunch of revenue for inventory and for filling orders and things of that nature, all that we will have to do is license out our ideas to various car companies, luxury car companies at first, so that they can provide them as options to their cars initially, and then once we get our commitment, we expect that around May 17th. At that point, then we can focus on expanding out to other car companies as soon as that 6 months is up. And here has some of our expected completion date is May 1st of the completely finished product. Right now we have the prototype design. We have a custom-built dynamic load test machine to test the material. All we need to do is, this next week, we're going to put it in there and test it out and see that everything works as it should. We've consulted with probably 10 or 12 different professors and doctors at Rowan University and a few in other places like Dr. Gabler in Virginia Tech, who specializes in biomechanics and seatbelt processes. And we are planning to launch this to market with our commitment fee by October 2013.
All right, so that October 2013 is just in time for the 2014 car lines to come out. So we don't want to jump in the middle and change their processes. We'd like them to help us out and start with the 2014 model. So on top, I apologize for the small font. We thought there was a very strict 8-slide limit. Our one-time startup costs, we expect about $100,000 more in research and development, so we can gain NHTSA approval. That is the National Highway Safety Transit Association, I believe. And another major cost is our working capital, and these are funds that we need to invest into the company or future products, just in case we need more research and development money or any other legal fees. We're just about to be in the patent pending phase. We plan to provisionally patent this by March, just in time for the business plan competition. Here is our consolidated income statement, which comes from a much larger pro forma, which I sadly did not include in this slideshow. As you can see in our highlights from that, we plan to have a net profit in our first year, despite only starting our sales in October.
Okay, I just want to introduce you to our team members and tell you about our qualifications. The first team member being Mark Schneider, who realized the need for such a product and in fact came up with the actual design. He would be our CEO, and we would make up most of the engineering part, because we focus mainly on product development and materials test, and essentially proving that our product can do what we're going to say it will do. We're going to have to reach elsewhere for finances, accounting, legal systems, and even human resources will need a CFO and a COO.
All right, and finally, some important dates we have. Like Mark has already said, right after graduation, we plan to launch our business. I believe we plan to be a C Corp. By late August, we plan to have our first licensee. We're planning to go to several auto trade shows and reach out to several different luxury car companies. There's a couple tens of them out there. By October 15th, we plan to have our first sales when that 2014 model comes out. And by November, we plan to break even. Now, that doesn't seem right, but because we're expecting a $500,000 commitment fee at the time of our license, that will pretty much take away all of our startup costs, and we'll only have to account for these costs here of our salaries, overhead to run the business, etc. And by November, after the first several hundred models are sold, then we should break even. Our initial profits will then be reinvested within the company to bring out further safety improvements and further revenue streams. Any questions?
Wow.
Let me get my notebook.
I'm assuming here first?
Actually not.